Well, today is story time, and I want to tell you guys about my amazing son who is 19 years old and who is headed to Stanford University in the fall. I'm representing with my sweatshirt today. So he graduated in the class of 2020 from high school, was accepted to Stanford's class of 2024, and then the pandemic got worse and worse in California. So at the very last minute, Stanford decided they were not going to allow freshmen or really any other students on campus. Originally they were going to allow freshmen and sophomores on campus. Then they decided to nix it all in about August, I think it was. The good news with that is they gave all the incoming freshmen an opportunity to take a gap year. They gave them a week to make the decision, which is not a lot of time. When you're thinking you're doing one thing, you're going to go to school, you're going to just continue on along your educational path, and then you get a wrench thrown into your plan and you have to decide really quickly if you want to take a gap year or not. That's the position a lot of the kids were in. So my son gave it a lot of thought and decided he wanted to take a gap year. He really did not want to start college online. He had finished the second half of his senior year online. It sucked. It was not interesting. It was not engaging, and he didn't want to start off his college experience online. Plus, being in California for 4 years is better than being in California for 3 years. So he made the decision to take a gap year. Well, added to all of that was our family was relocating from the Midwest to the East Coast right after graduation. We were really literally holding off on doing that until he graduated because we didn't want to move him in senior year. So we were all gearing up to go off to the East Coast. And he could either come with us to the East Coast and live in our city, maybe in his own apartment, or he could stay in the city that he had grown up in, or he could go to a whole new city, maybe go to the city where his sister is in college, that sort of thing. So we had a lot of options on the table. So where to live was the first thing he had to figure out. The second thing he had to figure out is what was he going to do during his gap year. So on short notice, couldn't travel, couldn't go overseas, couldn't tutor and do a lot of the things that people typically do during gap years that are planned out well in advance. So he had to put all that stuff together in like maybe 10 days, I think it was, for him to get it all organized. So he decided to take a gap year. He let Stanford know that he was going to officially be joining the class of 2025. And so, yeah, it was on from there. He made the decision that he was going to move to Washington, D.C., which is where his sister is in college. She had her apartment. So we found him an apartment on his own, but it was right next door to hers, neighboring buildings. So he'd have some independence, but not be totally floating out there in a new city. So we felt pretty good about that. We thought, okay, as parents, yeah, we got it going on. This is good. This is good. So we went to DC. We bought a bed. We raided IKEA. We raided Target. Bought all the stuff that he needed to set up his first apartment, which was surreal because we didn't think he was going to set up his first apartment at 18. Yeah, you go set up a dorm. That's completely different than setting up a full apartment. I mean, we had to buy a bed, a desk, lamps, a microwave, dishes, all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't have to buy for a freshman that we had to buy for him for his apartment. So we went out, we shopped till we dropped for a good day. I mean, I'm talking about comforters, rugs, bath accessories, everything to get him all set up. We had to go to the grocery store to get his refrigerator full, to get him just ready, bottled water, just all the basic things, soap, so he could be on his own. And so I was feeling pretty good as a super mom. I'm like, okay, he's ready. Let's get him all together. Ooh, child, it's more than a notion, because when do you ever teach your child how to grocery shop in all reality? Especially in this day and age, because we had been ordering from Instacart for the longest. So I don't even really go to the grocery store that much. So it dawned on me that he don't know how to grocery shop. So I was like, I'm a super mom and my child don't know how to grocery shop. So that was not fun. So I had to really figure out really the fundamentals of what I needed to teach him. Like, this is how you separate out what you are looking for in the grocery store. But rewind even before that. What are you planning on meal prepping or eating during the week when I'm not there to make it for you? What are you going to be eating? So we had to make sure he had a good, diet, really. It's not really a diet because it's not like he's trying to lose weight or anything, but he had to have good nutrition. So we had to make sure he had something scheduled out for breakfast, something for lunch, something for dinner, and the snacks. He's very, very healthy, very health conscious, borderline vegan. So we had to make sure, okay, you're getting your vitamins, your minerals, your protein, all that stuff. So making sure that he understood how to really pick his groceries out. Like, get the produce. This is how make sure you look at the date, that you have a good week on the bag of salad. It's not, expiring the next day. It was just a lot of minor details that I didn't think of to really supply him with until we got in the situation where he was really going to be on his own. I mean, his sister, she's been on her own. She's a junior in college this year, so she knows how to do those sorts of things. And plus, I think girls are a little bit different. Girls mature faster, and they kind of have a sense of the world and what's happening. I think, maybe I'm being stereotypical, but I think girls have a grasp on reality a lot sooner than boys do. So no shade at all, because my son is smart, charming, beautiful, all those things. But keeping a household, really, that was a whole nother situation. So grocery shopping was one thing. Making sure he understood, you got to wash your sheets like twice a week. You have to mop your bathroom floor. Those sorts of things. You got to make sure your Wi-Fi is set up appropriately. He doesn't really have a lot of bills, but I wanted to make sure that he knew how to pay his rent with a check that's due every month, that sort of thing. So it's been an interesting journey. He's come home a few times, but in general, he's made it work, and he's been very industrious, I will say, in terms of his meals. And he's not a big cook, but he likes to eat what he likes to eat. So he's figured out his meals that he wants to eat as snacks. I sent him a NutriBullet so that he could make smoothies, which is a big staple in his diet. And so it's been a learning process. I mean, you really have to get your kids situated for life in case things like this happen. And I realize some kids will take a gap year that they plan out and that they have time to get organized and those sorts of things, which is great. But sometimes a gap year is thrust upon you, and you also have to be ready for that. So the household stuff was one thing. The other piece of the puzzle was, what was he going to do for his gap year? So he decided that he, because he's a left brain, equally adept left brain, right brain person, just very smart and able to do the most technical things in science, and also super creative writer. So he decided he wanted to explore more of his creative side during his gap year, because his whole high school, he had done advanced science research, a lot of high-level science classes, a lot of high-level math classes. He was really a STEM kid in high school, but a writer. He writes poetry, he writes music, he writes all these things creatively. Won the creative award as a senior in his high school graduating class, that sort of thing. He wanted to focus on that a little bit more and kind of mine that and just use his creativity in a way that he wasn't allowed to do or wasn't able to do in high school, because he was so focused on his other classes that took up a lot of time, and research took up a ton of time over the year, over the summers, all that. So creatively, he's writing music, he's writing poetry, he's journaling. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff is shut down because of COVID and the pandemic and all of that. So he hasn't necessarily been able to get out, because I wanted him to get a real money-paying job. He wasn't able to do that because it's just not safe in a lot of these jobs. The frontline jobs, like working at Target or working at the grocery store or whatever, I didn't feel comfortable allowing him to do that, or driving Uber Eats and stuff like that. I was like, no, that's too much exposure. So he's really kind of just been more introspective. He has a goal of reading a book a week. So by the time he goes to school, he will have read 52 books, probably more than that, because I think he reads more than a book a week. But he's just really been educating himself on a lot of things that he wasn't learning in school, but he's always been super interested in. So he's definitely getting indoctrinated into a lot of authors that he's always wanted to read their famous works. So I'm proud of him for doing that and having his mind continuously expanding and developing along the way. So as a mom, though, it's been super interesting to have this gap year thrust upon us. I think it was really for the best, though. One of the best things that's ever happened was for him to take a breather, and because he's just a hard-charging, intense kid. So to take a breather, to kind of look at the world with fresh eyes, and to experience the world as an adult. Adulting at 18 is no joke. It's a lot. So I'm proud of him, though, for sticking with it. And he still has probably about 4 or 5 months left on this experiment of adulting at 18. But I think he's learned a lot, and he knows how to get his groceries now. He knows how to get that grocery shopping done. I know that much. So that's what's going on.